Question of the day. When was the exact moment you realized that training alone helped you evolve more than training surrounded by people? Because for me, training alone completely changed the way I evolved, physically and mentally. Hi, I am Fred. Here we talk about business investments, training, and real life. This is a very personal question. It's something each person has to evaluate in their own way. In my case, my training journey started very early. I've been training since I was 8 years old, and I'm still training today at 46. So, over all these years, a lot has happened, and this wasn't obvious at first. For many years, I truly believed that training group classes was the best option. Until about 15 years ago, I trained combat sports mainly in group environments. I trained Muay Thai with a team, everyone together. That was my main training. Alongside that, I also did traditional weight training as a secondary workout. Then, something interesting happened. I have a very close friend who is a physical education teacher. He trained with weights his entire life and has always been a big fan of bodybuilding. At some point, he came into contact with CrossFit. What caught my attention wasn't the trend, it was the idea of training multiple abilities at the same time. That made me start thinking about how to make my own training more variable, more challenging, and more complete. I was heavily inspired by CrossFit, but also by calisthenics. And that's when I realized something important. This kind of training wouldn't fit well into traditional group class. Most people go to the gym to train one specific martial art in a very defined structured way. Not everyone wants a hybrid approach. There was another factor that made this realization even clearer. My background includes taekwondo, karate, boxing, and Muay Thai, all stand-up fighting styles. Because I started training so young, I spent many years developing each of them. That's when it really clicked. I realized I could combine calisthenics and CrossFit concepts with techniques from all these martial arts. I could train taekwondo kicks, specific boxing punches, the aggressiveness and the clinch work of Muay Thai, and the technical precision of karate, all within my own training system. And that's exactly what I did. That was my path. And I understand that everyone has a different background. For each person, the answer may be completely different. The most important thing is that you find your own way and build a training system that truly works for you. If my story helped you in any way, the value is not to copying it, but in taking ideas from it and adapting them to your own reality. So, instead of random workouts, I started organizing my training around intentions, not exercise. Today is how I generally structure my week. One day I focus more on Muay Thai combinations, and on that same day I do regular push-ups. Another day I bring a more karate-oriented approach, sharper, more rigid movements, combined with pull-ups using a specific grip. On another day, I focus on boxing footwork and movement, combined with different leg exercises. Then, I have a day focused on taekwondo kicks, where the main strength movement is handstand push-ups. And finally, I dedicate a day to Muay Thai clinch work, with pull-ups again as the main strength exercise this time, with a biceps focused grip. That's how I organize my weekends, my weekdays, I mean. On weekends, I usually train as well, but with a slightly different structure. For me, this completely enriched my training. It also allowed me to integrate cycling and running into my routine. I ended up replacing traditional weight training with running and cycling. That works very well for me because it improves my endurance, my cardio, and my leg strength in a way that is much more applicable to fighting. Martial arts are still my main focus, but now my training is more varied, more complete, and more functional. There are countless other ways to train. This is just my personal experience. The important thing is that you find your way, shape it to fit your life, whether you practice martial arts or not, and keep moving forward. Before you go, let me ask you something. At what point did your training stop serving your evolution and start becoming just a routine? I really like to hear your thoughts on this. Leave a comment below. I read and reply to all of them. I see you in the next video.